Australian farmers are pushing for Trade Minister Don Farrell to walk away from negotiations with the EU unless a better deal is put on the table. The Prime Minister insists Australia won't be signing on to anything not within our national interest. The European Union struck an agreement with New Zealand overnight, but Aussie agricultural workers say it isn't worth replicating.
We want to conclude this agreement, but that we won't be signing up to things that are not in Australia's national interest. And in particular, we want access to European markets, and we want to have the mutual benefit that comes from free trade between Australia and Europe. France, of course, has raised some issues, but I'm confident that they can be worked through. We're not asking for anything that other countries have not received.
Joining me live is National Farmers Federation President Tony Mahar, who's been travelling with the Trade Minister as part of these negotiations in Brussels. Tony Mahar, thanks for your time early in the morning there. Where are you at and where is the Minister at on this trade deal?
Yeah, morning. It's getting to the pointy end. It's certainly something that we've been working on with this government, and the negotiators have been working on for years. So it is coming to the pointy end, and it's tough going. The negotiations are challenging. They're getting complex. So we'll see how today goes. Minister Farrell's doing a good job, and we hope that he continues to work towards an outcome that benefits Australian farmers.
Do you think what New Zealand got in terms of a deal with the EU was inadequate?
Yes, we won't accept anything like that. I think you talk to farmers in New Zealand, and perhaps even the New Zealand government, won't speak for them, but we look at that deal and think that we can do better. We're a different country. We've got different products, food and fibre products in New Zealand. So we're aiming to go over and above what New Zealand got with their free trade agreement with the EU.
And what are the main sticking points?
Look, agriculture is always a really sticking point. They're complex to agree to anyway, free trade agreements, but agriculture, because of its cultural sensitivities in a range of countries, including Australia, there's complexities around dairy, geographical indicators, red meat, so beef and lamb, sugar, horticulture. There's a range of sticking points, but what we're aiming for and what we're advising Minister Farrell to do is to work towards commercially tangible, meaningful arrangements for farmers. There's no point doing an agreement just for the sake of it. We want this agreement to deliver dollars to farmers and more market access. We're an export-orientated industry, so we'll always be looking for improved market access, and Europe is a great market if we can get the right access to it. So that's what we've been doing, and we'll continue to try and work towards that today.
Why is keeping names like Prosecco and Feta, etc., so important?
From a European perspective, they feel like those product names are central and linked in some cases specifically to the geographical region. Prosecco, Australia would argue, is a varietal name of grapes, so a little bit of difference there, but things like Feta, parmesan, pecorino are all have their origins in particular regions of whether it's Greece or Italy. The issue there is, of course, that they've been produced in Australia for decades and decades, and they're now generic and ubiquitous through supermarket shelves and households across Australia. So that's our argument, is that we respect that those products have come from geographical regions in some of those countries, but they have been produced in Australia as well, and we think that we can protect and recognise that in other ways rather than prohibiting the use of names like Feta and Parmesan.
Would it be Australian Feta, Australian Parmesan? Is that an option on the table?
Something like those sorts of things are being put forward. So, we hope that we can achieve an outcome and we can continue to see Feta cheese on the supermarket shelves in Australia and produced by manufacturers using Australian dairy products, milk from Australian farmers. That's our aim.
And finally, what could this deal do for the economy as opposed to what not getting it through would do to the Australian economy?
Look, it can mean billions of dollars, essentially. I mean, the European market is incredibly competitive. It's a mature market. So it will be tough going for farmers and processors that that export their products to the European market, but it could mean if we get the right outcome, billions of dollars in terms of increased market access for things like beef, sheep meat, dairy products, grains, sugar, if we get the right outcome. So, that's why we're here. That's why we're pushing Minister Farrell to get a good deal, because we do think it's worth it. But if we don't get an arrangement that does deliver commercial outcomes to farmers, our advice to Minister Farrell is to walk away.
Tony Mahar from the NFF, thanks so much for your time out of Brussels this morning.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.